Thanksgiving has always been a performance in our family. It's less about food and gratitude, more about subtle one-upmanship, veiled insults, and status updates disguised as small talk. Everyone arrives pretending to care more about the cranberry sauce than the gossip they've been storing up since July. I used to dread these gatherings, not because I hated family, because I hated who I had to become around them. I had to shrink, smile, nod politely through backhanded compliments and loaded questions. And this year, I decided I was done playing along. It was just after the second round of mashed potatoes. The kids were laughing in the other room, the adults were half drunk on wine and nostalgia. That's when it came. Her moment. My mom stood up, glass in hand, smiling just a little too wide. "Everyone," she said, "let's all congratulate your brother. He just bought the most beautiful house, 4 bedrooms, great neighborhood. We're so proud of him." Cheers, claps. Even my dad patted him on the back. I smiled too, genuinely. My brother's journey was his own, and he worked hard for it. But then, she turned. She looked at me with that practiced disappointment in her eyes. "So, when will you finally settle down?" The table went quiet, not because the question was shocking, but because it was routine. Every year she asked. Every year I deflected. But this time, something in me snapped. I looked her in the eyes, gently placed my fork down, and said, "Oh, I already did. I just didn't invite anyone who doubts me." The silence was seismic. Her smile froze in place. Fork stopped mid-air. All eyes shifted from her to me, and in that moment, I didn't feel defiant. I felt free. The words didn't come from anger. They came from years of quiet hurt, boiling just under the surface. And now, the pot had finally spilled. My mother's face turned a shade of red I hadn't seen since I told her I wasn't going to law school. She tried to laugh it off. "Oh, well, that's just dramatic," she said, but her voice cracked, and that's when I knew the mask had slipped. This wasn't about me settling down. It was about control, about expectation, about the version of me she wanted, not the one I chose to become. I spent years letting my family define success for me. College degree? Check. Corporate job? Briefly. Traditional relationship? Tried that, but none of it felt like mine. I walked away from all of it to chase what actually made me feel alive, something they never understood. And every holiday since, I was reminded of how behind I was, but what they never saw was how ahead I actually felt. I live in a small apartment with warm light, plants I take care of, and art I made with my own 2 hands. I run my own business. I wake up on my time, work with my clients, build my dream. I don't have a mortgage yet, but I have freedom. I have peace. I have people who actually love me for who I am, not who they want me to be. And for the first time in years, I feel settled. My mom's pride has always been transactional. If you did something the family could brag about, you were golden. If not, you were still figuring it out. She once told me, "Your job should be something people understand when I tell them," as if her approval was the currency I needed to validate my path. But I'm done paying for someone else's comfort with my authenticity. I looked around the table after my comment. Some were shocked, others were quietly smirking. Even my brother raised an eyebrow like, "Well, damn." But no one said a word, because deep down, they knew what I said was true. They just never heard me say it out loud. And once it was out, there was no going back. She changed the subject quickly, of course, asked who wanted more stuffing, poured herself more wine, tried to recapture the illusion, but the tension stayed, and I stayed quiet until dessert. When she handed me a slice of pie and said, "You know I just want the best for you, right?" I nodded. "Then let me define what that is." Her eyes dropped, because that's what it was all about, wasn't it? Control disguised as concern. Later that night, my cousin pulled me aside. "I've always envied you," she whispered. "You're the only one who actually left and did something different." I smiled, but I also grieved, because I knew how many others at that table were trapped in jobs they hate, relationships they regret, houses they can't afford just to impress the next guest. And here I was, judged for being the one who escaped. We don't talk enough about the pressure families put on us, the way tradition becomes a cage, the way normal becomes a weapon. I was taught to equate success with validation, but validation is a drug, and no high lasts forever. So I got clean, cold turkey, and I built a life that feels like mine, even if no one claps for it at Thanksgiving. After dinner, as we cleaned up, My mom kept glancing at me, trying to read if I meant what I said. I didn't offer more, didn't apologize, and that probably rattled her more than anything, because silence after truth is its own kind of thunder. I left earlier than usual that night, walked out into the cold air, zipped my coat, and took a deep breath. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was leaving my family. I felt like I was returning to myself, because I no longer needed them to see me. I saw me, and that was enough. I don't hate my mother. I don't hate anyone at that table. But I no longer let them sit in the front row of my life if they're just going to criticize the show. From now on, only people who cheer when I speak get a seat that close. If you've ever sat at a table where you had to defend your happiness, this is your sign. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that fits their comfort zone. You don't owe your family the death of your dreams just to make their holiday photos look complete. There's power in walking your own path. There's peace in being misunderstood, because at least you're not lying to yourself anymore. You're not shrinking to make others feel taller. You're not delaying your joy just to be digestible. I'm not married. I don't have a white picket fence, but I have peace. I have growth. I have a future designed by me. And if that doesn't look like settling down to them, good. Because maybe they're the ones who need to rise up. One day, maybe they'll understand. Maybe not. Either way, I'm done waiting. My life isn't a group project, and I'm no longer looking for grades from people who never studied what I've been through. So yeah, Mom, tell everyone how my brother bought a house. He earned that. But don't ask when I'll settle down. I already have. You just weren't invited. And that's the most peaceful decision I've ever made.